What's going on, guys? I'm Taylor,
And I'm Ryan.
and today we're going to be listing all the travel credit cards and putting them in a tier list so you can kind of get an idea of at least what, in our opinion, are the best travel credit cards.
So let's jump into it.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.
So all the cards on this list are what we consider travel credit cards, meaning they're not going to have any foreign transaction fees. And a lot of these higher tier ones are going to have travel protections and things. We're not going to list every single one of those because this video would be way longer than it needs to be. But those are just some general guidelines for these type of credit cards.
So starting out with the very first credit card on this list, the Bilt Mastercard. So the Bilt Mastercard has no annual fee. It's 3 times points on dining, 2 times points on travel booked directly with that carrier, 1 time points on rent, which is its biggest standout feature,
Yeah.
and 1 times points on everything else.
Yeah, so that 1 times points back on rent is a game changer. There aren't any other credit cards in the game right now that are offering that. So that's its biggest attraction. Being able to get points back on what is oftentimes people's biggest expense is huge. You know, if
Seriously.
it was something that was able to cover mortgages, we'd be traveling for free ourselves. But I mean, if you have rent and you're living in an apartment, there's really not too big of a reason to not get this credit card because it doesn't have an annual fee. And it's one of the few cards on this list without an annual fee. On top of that, they do offer double points on the first of the month. They call it the rent day. Now, you're not going to earn double points on rent, but all these other categories, you will get double points for that day. Plus, they offer some occasional bonus categories, so keep an eye out for that. They also have some of those travel insurances and coverages. You can see some of those on screen. But another thing is you can use your points towards rent or save them up and apply them for a down payment. Now, that's a bit of a new feature as well. We haven't figured out exactly how they go about that.
Yeah.
Didn't do too much research into it, but we wanted to just put it out there. This card is very unique in the sense of how it deals with rent, down payment, and all those kind of things.
Yeah, and the fact that you can get so many points from just your largest expense, like
Yeah.
Taylor said, that you're going to do anyways. You're going to pay the rent.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just putting it on that card and getting all those points and using it towards travel is
Yeah.
incredible. Like, we're not talking about just random credit cards. We're talking about travel credit cards.
Mhm.
So that's an incredible feature that we just really want to highlight.
That's why, with this being such a unique card and you getting points back, like we said, we're putting this in the A tier. So a very high level card, because usually people consider those high level cards ones associated with a large annual fee.
Yeah.
But for no annual fee, this is just a great card. And all things considered, we felt it deserved the A tier.
And jumping straight into the second card is the Discover It Miles card. And I actually personally have this card. I got it when I was traveling more for work, and that's all I was going to put on it. Now I've used it for everyday purchases and different things. It's really maintenance free in terms of you don't have to check all these bonus categories. You don't have to go out and do anything extra to get these points. You don't have to sign up for things, nothing like that. You just get 1.5 points for every purchase. It's simple,
Yep.
which is one of the greatest parts about this card. But jumping into the details about it, it has no annual fee as well, which is great. Currently, it's offering 0% APR on purchases and balance transfers for the first 15 months. And right now, the transfer fee is only 3%, which is pretty incredible for that long of 0% interest rate.
Yeah.
And then, as we said, it's 1.5 miles on all purchases all the time. And then they do a mile for mile match at the end of the first year, which is awesome.
Yeah, no cap on that either. It's unlimited mile to mile match at the end of your first year, which is a great feature. A lot of people put caps on it when an offer is good like that. This one doesn't, so that's a great thing to see.
Yeah, you could just tear through that card, spend a ton of money on whatever you're expecting to spend money on. Hopefully, don't spend extra. Just make it work into your life that you normally spend stuff on.
Yeah.
And get all those points. And at the end of the year, they'll just match it point
Yep.
for point. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So while we highlighted all these cool things, and apparently I have nothing but good things to say about it,
Yeah.
we did end up putting this in the C tier or
Yeah.
category, just because this is very simple,
Yeah.
maintenance free, no annual fee, but it doesn't get a lot of those perks that a lot of these other cards we're going to talk about or have talked about do offer.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have all these partnerships like a lot of these other cards do have. So we ended up putting in that C category.
Next, we're going to get into a card that does have an annual fee, and it's the Citi Premier card. The annual fee is $95. So as far as travel credit cards go, that's still not that expensive, but we are getting into annual fee territory here. And diving into the actual features, they're offering an intro bonus of 60,000 points after you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. And then you get 3 times points on flights, hotels, restaurants, supermarkets, and gas stations, with 1 point back on everything else. Now, that's actually pretty good. A lot of good categories are covered right there. So, this is a bit of a positive in that sense. But again, this one's more of a basic credit card because you look at it and you do get like a $100 hotel credit through thankyou.com, which is Citi's travel portal. on a hotel stay. You do have to spend $500 or more to get that credit, but it's something to help combat that annual fee. And you may, if you've been in this space, hear people talk about effective annual fee where, the credits offset it in this way. This one would do that in a sense. But again, not too many bells and whistles to it. So again, we're going to put this one in the C category.
Yeah, I think it's great because it gives so many points on things we spend the most money on: restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores. So it does give you those bonus points or those increased points, which towards travel, or you can use them towards travel. But it's also like it doesn't do a lot of, again, what we're going to talk about, and that's why it ended up in that C category, kind of like the Discover card. So it has its highlight thing or its good thing, but it doesn't do a lot of everything else.
Yeah.
So that's why we ended up in that C category.
Yeah, and if you have an annual fee, we're kind of expecting a few more bells and whistles.
Yeah, that's true. Next, we're talking about one you've probably heard about if you've ever looked up travel credit card specifically, is the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card. So this card also has an annual fee of $95. Usually you get 60,000 points after you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months, but right now they're offering 75,000 points for spending $4,000 in the first 3 months. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They also give you 5 times points on travel through Chase Portal. They give you 3 times points on dining and online groceries, 3 times points on select streaming services, 2 times points on all other travel not through the Chase portal, and 1 times points on every other purchase.
On top of that, you do get a $50 hotel credit in the Chase portal, and they do offer a 10% anniversary points boost. So every year you have the card, there's a 10% boost, which is a nice feature to have for sure. In fact, the next card we talk about within Chase doesn't even offer that, and it's considered the higher tier. So that's a nice thing. All things considered, though, we are putting this in B tier. It does have some of the bells and whistles we're looking for. It has more features than the cards we've listed so far, but in comparison to some of these cards that we're going to list, we just didn't think it quite stacked up the same way, so that's why it's going into B tier.
And you can think about it like your school grades. If you got a B on a test, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, hey.
You're a B student. Hey, I'm happy with that. So that's still a really good card, a very good option. So definitely don't put that away just because it's in the B category, not A or S. If that works for you and that's the categories you spend the most in, might be your card.
Yeah, it's difficult to make it into the S category.
Absolutely.
Now, we just talked about the Chase Sapphire Preferred. This is the Chase Sapphire Reserve, kind of that next tier in travel credit card, the highest one that Chase offers right now. So diving into its features, it does have a whopping $550 annual fee, which is very high. One of the highest we have on this list, so we are expecting a lot of bells and whistles here. So they do offer 60,000 points after you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months, but right now, at the time of filming, they are offering 75,000 points after you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. Now, they do offer 10 times points on hotels and cars through Chase, 5 times points on flights through Chase, 3 times on dining and other travel, 1 times on all streaming services, and 1 times points on all other purchases. They also offer 10 times points on Chase Dining, which is more like a prepaid reservation or orders through Chase. That's a very niche thing, so it's not something we really wanted to highlight, but I'll throw it out there. You also do get lounge access. Now, this is one thing I do kind of want to highlight because they get Priority Pass, which a lot of these high-tier cards get Priority Pass, and it's this whole network of airport lounges. But the difference maker between this card and the rest has typically been that this Priority Pass also gets you free meals at a lot of restaurants in airlines. But come July, they're losing that feature. So that's why you may have heard about this card a little bit, is this is kind of the feature that distinguished them and people were saying is worth that extra high annual fee. But it's just kind of a card that since it came out, and when it came out, it was the card, okay? But since then, it's either been stagnant or lost a few features, which just isn't really something I kind of want to see in my travel credit card if I'm spending a big annual fee. So with these kind of things like that, it's just something to be a little hesitant about.
Yeah, just to highlight a few more features, you do get TSA pre-check credit. You do get $300 travel credit, which is flexible. You get car rental insurance. You get $5 per month on a DoorDash Pass credit. You also get other coverages and insurances that, again, we can list on the screen.
Yeah, so all things considered, this is a great travel credit card. But like we were saying, with those little trends that are kind of making, at least me personally, hesitant, like when I was looking for travel credit cards, it was like frankly a disqualifying factor with such a high annual fee. So that's why it's only in the A tier. It didn't quite make it to the S tier that a lot of people used to consider this card to be.
Like you said, bad trend. Things are starting to get removed, and the card itself has one of the highest annual fees, and it's no longer considered the best card. that should kind of go hand in hand, I feel like. So,
Yeah.
makes sense. So now jumping into a whole sphere of credit cards, this is the Capital One series. So we're looking at first the Capital One Venture Rewards card. So let's jump into it. So the Capital One Venture Rewards does have a $95 annual fee. It does have 5 times miles on car and hotel through the Capital One portal, 2 times miles on all other purchases. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
You don't have to know all these different categories where you get the most points, just plain and simple.
Yeah, but a decent catch-all right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So then there's 75,000 miles when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months, competes with the Chase series,
Mm-hmm.
$100 TSA or global entry credit.
On top of that, you do get the Hertz 5-star status, so you get access to, a few nicer rental cars maybe at the airport. I have heard that they are going to lose this feature in 2025, though. So, again, not something you really want to see, but Hertz status, I don't think is quite as big a deal as maybe the Priority Pass, but is something to consider. It is a negative for sure.
So with this one, again, pretty simple card. Does offer a lot of great features, but pretty simple card.
Yeah.
So in this, we ended up putting it in the B category. Not a bad card by any means, but with the annual fee, we expected a little bit more.
Yeah. So continuing right along with the Capital One Venture series is the Capital One Venture X. Now, I'll go ahead and let you know, this is a card I like. It was one that was right down to the wire on what travel credit card I was going to get for my first travel credit card. So I'll go ahead and put that out there. I like this card.
And you'll see in just a second why we think Taylor's rich, because he likes this card.
Yeah, it does have a $395 annual fee. So not quite as high as, the Chase series, but still definitely a hefty annual fee for sure. For the intro bonus, they are offering that 75,000 miles when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. Kind of seems to be the standard, competitive with the rest. We like to see it. They do offer 10 times miles on hotels and cars through the Capital One portal, 5 times miles on flights through Capital One, and 2 times miles on everything else. So again, a nice catch-all like the previous card we mentioned.
They have lounge accesses. They do currently have Hertz presidential status, but they're losing that in 2025. They do have rental car coverage. If you want to add an authorized user, it's free authorized users. So small things like that will definitely add to the screen. Plus, you get a $300 credit for Capital One travel.
On top of that, they do offer 10,000 miles annually, so it's a nice annual bonus. It's equivalent to about $100 there. Plus, you get a $100 TSA or global entry credit. And that right there, the $300 travel credit and the $100 annual credit, this is where a lot of people, you hear them talk about effective annual fee. Right there, you get $400 in credits that are easy to access, and that would cover your $395 annual fee. So in that sense, it's like an effective $5 positive in your pocket annual fee. Plus, if you want to add that global entry TSA pre-check, it's good for every 4 years, so an extra like $25 on average annually. So this is a card that if you use the credits and, if you are traveling a lot, it's pretty easy to hit them, where you're really not paying anything for this card, which is something that we like to see. And, I kind of gave it away maybe a little bit at the beginning, how I like this card, and it was one of my top tiers in considering it. This is an S tier card. We just think it has a lot of the good bells and whistles. Was a bit of a negative that it's losing the Hertz status in 2025, but at least for me personally, that's not a big deal, because if you travel a lot, chances are you already have a lot of status with the carriers that you go with. So it does have, like I said, a lot of good points and categories that I just personally think are really worth it. On top of that, their portal is nice. They offer price drop and price match guarantees. Now that's through the means of like a credit you'll receive. So let's say you buy a $400 ticket. You're like, oh, actually, Delta offers that ticket for $300. You notify them, they'll give you a $100 credit, kind of as that price difference right there, which is definitely a nice feature to have.
So now to the other big card series you've probably heard about. If you've ever looked into travel credit cards, the Amex series, starting out with the Amex Gold.
Yeah, so this is a card that I also, again, was considering for my first travel credit card. So, little heads up there. I do like this one as well.
Bet you can't guess what tier it's in.
Yeah. So diving right into the features.
So starting out with the annual fee, like we always do, we're looking at a $250 annual fee. A little bit on the higher side, but we expect to see some features that'll match that fee. Let's see. So typically you'll see 60,000 points when you spend $6,000 in the first 6 months. Currently, they're offering 90,000 points for spending $6,000 in the first 6 months. So above a lot of those other premium tier cards, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
4 times points at restaurants and supermarkets, typically our highest expenses, so that's good. 3 times points on flights booked directly with the airline or Amex. That's different than a lot of other portals because they only want you to use their portal. And then lastly, you get 1 point on every other purchase.
On top of that, they do offer some credits to help offset that annual fee. like $120 dining credit at certain places like Grubhub, the Cheesecake Factory, Goldbelly, Wine.com, Milk Bar, and select Shake Shack locations. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of how they kind of limit it right there. It's not just a general dining credit because, a lot of these places, they're not too easily accessible to me, or I don't use Wine.com and stuff. So that one is not really a great feature in my opinion, but they do have an additional $120
Uber Cash.
But they do have an additional $120 Uber Cash credit, and I do think that's a good feature because that's very easy. That works for Uber, Uber Eats, any of those. If you travel a lot, chances are you'll take an occasional Uber to the airport. I've already used my credit. Ooh, kind of revealing that I have the card. Oops, spoiler alert, guys. This is the card I chose. But you get the $10 every month towards Uber. So it's not just a straight $120, but it's $10 monthly. Very easy to use. I've already used my $10 for the month. I'll use the $10 for the next month. That's a feature that I automatically knew that I would be using a lot. On top of that, Amex offers some really good purchase protections that are a little above and beyond some of these other ones. As we know, credit cards are a safe, secure way to purchase, but the way Amex works is just maybe a step above the rest. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a feature. And you guys probably were able to guess what tier I put this one in because it's the card that I have. I won't show you the back here, but it's the Amex Gold. I'm putting it in the S tier. And I've enjoyed the card so far. I wasn't even thinking about it when I got it, but it's a metal card. I like the feel of a metal credit card, guys. It's got some weight to it and everything. I think it's really cool. So yeah, an S tier from me.
Oftentimes when you're looking at travel credit cards, you look at the direct airline you fly the most. So for example, Taylor, based in Atlanta, or was based in Atlanta, would fly Delta all the time.
Yeah.
So you'd probably naturally look at the Delta card. So Delta does offer a Delta Amex Gold card. And so what's the difference between that and the Amex?
I don't know why you're saying it that way.
I don't know either. I keep want to say Air Max for some reason.
Yeah.
I almost want to start that whole thing over.
What's going on, guys? I'm Taylor.
And I'm Ryan.
And today we're going to be listing all the travel credit cards and putting them in a tier list.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
All right, we just wanted to throw this in as a little extra kind of tip there. Certain airlines and hotels do offer their own credit cards, so it may be a natural inclination to look at it like, oh, I fly Delta the most. Like, that's my personal experience. I fly Delta the most, so I'm like, okay, Delta offers a credit card. I'm sure that's the one I'm going to go with. Well, turns out that's not necessarily the case, is Delta does offer a gold Amex card, but when you look at the features, quite frankly, I don't want to be brutally honest, but I'm going to be. I don't really know why it exists. It's just half the card the Amex Gold card is, because while it may offer a lot of kind of point features in a similar way, and it's a slightly cheaper annual fee, the features just aren't quite as good. The point multipliers aren't as high. The features aren't as nice. And with the Amex Gold, it's a one-to-one transfer. Like if you get one Amex point, you can transfer it directly to Delta because they're travel partners. So I just don't know why the Amex Gold or the Delta Amex Gold is really a thing. It doesn't make sense.
And it limits you to fly Delta. Yeah. That's where you get the most value. If you're not flying Delta, for whatever reason, Delta doesn't fly to that location you're going, then you're like, well, I'm not getting the benefits I'm supposed to get. So yeah, it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
And with a lot of these cards, not just Delta, if it's a particular airline or hotel, a lot of their features become useless the more you use it. Like, oh, one of our features is we let you have a free check bag. Well, if you're flying Delta a lot already, like I am, I'm offered like 3 or 4 free check bags already. Why do I need an extra check bag? So the more I use the card, the more worthless it becomes. That's kind of just a dead giveaway that I don't think is a very good card. So
that's a very good point.
I'll let you guys throw a guess out there on what tier this guy's in. D tier. And hey, Delta, I like you. I love you. Don't be upset if you end up seeing this.
Please I still fly you
guys. I still fly you guys the most. I'm a fan of Delta. I just don't quite understand most of their credit card series. That goes for Hilton, IHG, Hyatt, Southwest. Most of these personalized particular carriers, they just don't offer the best credit card in my opinion.
So jumping into the very last card on our list is the Amex. Oh my gosh.
Why do you keep saying
I don't know. Amex. It's only when I'm on camera, Amex. So jumping into the very last card on our list is the Amex Platinum. So starting out with the annual fee, This is a premium card, so it gets a premium annual fee of $695 a year.
Whew.
Got me sweating if that came around every year. You can expect to get 80,000 points when you spend $8,000 in the first 6 months of having the card. However, currently, they are offering 150,000 points for spending that same $8,000 in the first 6 months. So that's pretty far ahead
Oh yeah,
every other card we've seen.
like twice.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty insane. Then you also get 5 times points on flights and hotels directly with the airline or Amex Travel again. So again, that's a huge feature. So you're not held down to a certain airline and you're not held down to a certain portal. That is a huge, huge feature. Lastly, you get 1 time on everything else.
On top of that, you do get a lot of lounge accesses that these premium cards get you. You also get status with Hilton and Marriott. You'll get their gold status. You get status with Hertz, Avis, National. And on top of that, they do offer a lot of credits to help offset that massive annual fee. So you'll get a $240 digital entertainment credit, a $200 Uber credit, $200 airline incidental fee credit, a $189 Clear Plus credit, and a $155 Walmart Plus membership credit.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of credits right there. And I'll go ahead and put it out there. If you're going to use all those, you're like, oh, all those credits apply to me. This would be a perfect card for you, frankly.
Absolutely.
But some of these credits I just don't think are going to be useful for the everyday person. I don't have Walmart Plus. The incidental fees, hopefully I'd never encounter that. Now, when I do, I'm sure I'll be glad to have that credit. But a lot of these credits are contingent on things and not super common. But a couple of them are very useful. So it definitely does help offset that annual fee.
And it has all the insurances and protections and
Yeah.
reimbursements like every other credit card would that's in this kind of realm of higher echelon travel credit cards. But this one was a little bit tricky, actually, which tier we wanted to put it in. It does have a sizable annual fee, so we're expecting it to kind of match that with all its features. And we thought it did have a lot, but it still lacked a little bit. For that $700 annual fee, we expected more point categories or more points in general. We expected.
I felt their catch-all could have been a little better. Just 1 point on everything else.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And then their credits are good, but just like Taylor said, it doesn't apply to everything you would use or everything the average person would use. And so for that reason, we actually knocked it into the A category.
Yeah. Now, again, if you use all those credits, this would be an S-class credit card for you. So again, all these cards are a little bit objective. They're just our opinions and what we think and what we would utilize them for and what we think probably the more average traveling experience, you'd come across these. So again, these will vary a little bit from person to person. So obviously we're not giving you perfect financial advice or anything. This is just, again, our opinion.
Yeah, exactly right. So if you use a card and the features on it or the credits on it apply directly to you, that's going to move up in the ranks. It's going to move up on the ladder. But to that point, please let us know in the comments what credit card you think is the best, or more importantly, if you think we got one in a different category. If you think it should be an A and we put it as C, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear that. Please let us know. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. It took a lot of time and research to put this thing together, but we really appreciate you guys for watching, and see you in the next one.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.